So after 12 years, Orlaith decided to jump into a 24-hour intensive, and she chose coming to Denshaw and cancelled the trip to where? Mauritius. I'm very flattered, believe me, believe me. I'm not sure I would have done that, but yeah.
It was Senior Tour Championship for a week, or Jamie in Denshaw for 24 hours. Yeah. And Jamie wins.
So Orlaith's golf physio, one of the best on the tour. She looks after the seniors and does some main tour as well. And I guess, why are you here?
Knowing Jamie for the last 12 years and having done the Train Brain workshop before, it gave me a skill set to talk to any of my clients, patients, golfers, in a way that wasn't a medical model, that was more about empowering them and giving them control and ownership of their condition, rather than feeling that they had to rely on me or anyone else to make them better. And I had always wanted to work in golf from a young age, but specifically on European Tour from the age of 14. And I felt in the last 2 years that I had got to a glass ceiling and wasn't going through it. I needed to clear my head, get some clarity, and there was just a lot of noise in my head around that. So I came to do what I thought was going to be a business element, shall we say, of what you do.
That's what she thought.
That's what I thought. And as Jamie said, I took both feet off the lily pad this time, because in several conversations over the last 12 years, I have taken one foot off and been too scared to do this. I've been too scared of what Jamie might ask, about some of the answers I'd have to give, knowing and having had several conversations, not about me, but just about what Jamie does. So yeah, I needed to be brave enough to do this. And I also needed to be at a point in my life where I felt I was also ready to turn around and drive forward. And that time is now. Simple as that.
You needed more than just courage, because part of this, we go on and walk in the morning. We walk and talk, and I think the cows and the bulls.
Oh yeah.
We both needed courage to get past those.
Looking at the rear end of what we thought was a cow in front of us, when it suddenly turned around and it was a bull, but it's in a very different situation.
Yeah, very different mindset. And so, I think the first thing is always making the decision, and then it's showing up, because there's a big difference between making a decision to do something and then actually going and doing it. And
I've talked about it so often.
Yeah, and I think so I was quite surprised when the stars aligned, because you had something on in Manchester and you could have gone to Mauritius, and you chose to go to Manchester and come here. And so I think the stars have aligned, and I always say timing is everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not in control of the events that happen.
And sometimes it's gifted to you.
Yeah.
This was a perfect example. An event that I thought was going to be held in London. I got an email a few weeks ago and it said it was Manchester, and that I thought, great. I know and love the city. I have friends here. But it was a sign, and it was pick up the phone and get in touch and say, can we do something that weekend? And here I am. Yeah.
So what are the couple of takeaways for you that you could say, right, okay, this is what I've taken away, but if it's a coach or the business people that come here, what is it that you've taken away that we couldn't have done in a 2-hour Skype coaching call, or we couldn't have done in a face-to-face session in
anywhere
an hour?
else.
Yeah. What
else.
was different about you immersing yourself?
I think for me it was turning down and eliminating the noise in my head. So trying to make a plan when when there's so much noise, it's hard to get clarity. So first of all, I think by being here and dealing with the noise and figuring out what that noise is, because for me it wasn't very clear what the noise was saying, but clearing that out, and all of a sudden it just gave me this immense space to focus forward rather than feel as if I was being pulled back all the time. And suddenly it just felt like I was standing on a line, literally able to move forward, and that's not something I've ever felt in a business sense before, and nor have I ever probably felt it at that level or intensity as I did because of what we did yesterday.
And I think for whilst Orla came here to say, okay, what's the plan, how do I move forward, there was some, as you called it, unpicking of the tapestry that had to happen in order to, in your context, it's creating a new story, isn't it? It's creating a new story, and I think we've managed to.
And I think for me, I knew in the conversations that I had with you, Jamie, over the years, that I was retelling my own story to myself. It was nothing new to you, almost weaving my thread deeper into a tapestry where I didn't quite fit. And so, yes, when the phrase came out of my head, it's time to unpick the tapestry, I had a very clear vision of what that looked like. And for me, it just gave permission to tiptoe back away from some of the issues that we sort of gotten to the bottom of yesterday. And it was a very, very powerful moment. It was probably one of the most powerful moments yesterday, and there were a lot. I have said to Jamie this morning, it was the most powerful and empowering day of my life.
Well, that to be a part of that is, as I've known you for 12 years, our children, well, basically we base it on the length of time of our children, don't we? So so,
and building our homes.
So we've had a great 24 hours, and it doesn't stop here, because that's the foundation, and it gives you that foundation to move forward, whereas before your feet were always on unstable
surface.
Yeah,
and it's one of my key things that I say to players as well. It's that game of Jenga. You can't just start sticking blocks into it because it starts to destabilize. You have to take the blocks down, find the foundation and rebuild it, a solid foundation from the base up. And then it's easy to tweak if something falls out of position, rather than trying to figure out which bit is the important bit to stick back in. It just can't work like that.
So 24 hours, she's back on the plane in a few moments. And
not to Mauritius.
Not to Mauritius.
Back to Dublin.